Welcome to the July 17th, 2026 edition of the Beyond the Garden Basics podcast and newsletter. I'm Fred Hoffman, and for over 40 years, I've been a University of California certified master gardener, also known around these parts of Northern California, especially to radio and podcast listeners, as Farmer Fred. In today's podcast, we get information about growing, protecting, and especially pruning your blueberry plants. So when exactly is the best season for pruning blueberry plants? Well, I got to tell you, it's my favorite garden answer of all time, which is, it depends. It depends on where you live and what variety of blueberries you're growing and whose advice you decide to take. In today's Beyond the Garden Basics newsletter portion, we have a USDA zone-by-zone breakdown of when and how to prune northern highbush, southern highbush, rabbit-eye, and if you live in the coldest zones for blueberries, which would be USDA zones 3 and 4, the half-high cultivars, which are combinations of high bush and low bush hybrids that have been bred by the University of Minnesota. But first, let's start with the blueberry information in today's podcast, which includes a nifty way and an inexpensive way to protect your precious blueberries at harvest time from marauding birds, squirrels, and whoever else just might be eyeing those sweet blue orbs when you're not looking. Here to expand your mind a little bit about pruning blueberries, as well as selecting and planting blueberries in containers, are fruit plant experts Tom Spellman and Phil Purcell. It's from one of their YouTube chats for Dave Wilson Nursery about summer care of blueberries.
It's second week of August up here in the Central Valley, and we're out evaluating our new crop of berry plants coming on for this fall. We'll be shipping these in late October, November, early December. This is Sunshine Blue Blueberry. Look how nice that plant is. That's just absolutely a beautiful finished product. But we're going to pinch these one more time. We're going to cut them down about 6 inches or so and put one more nice flush of growth on them. All that growth that they finish off with this fall, that's going to be production wood for this next season. That's what's going to bloom in February and March and April and produce berries in May, June, and July. So blueberries are kind of an anomaly in the fruit world. If you prune blueberries in the wintertime, you're every cut you make, you're pruning out fruiting work. So you want to do all of your pruning on blueberries in the summer after the end of the crop season. So when the plants are done fruiting in July or early August, that's when you want to do your shaping. Let that next flush of growth come out, and that's what's going to be production wood for the next year. So no winter pruning on blueberries. So this is another one of our unique blueberry varieties. We're growing about a dozen or so different varieties in our Farmers Market Favorite program, all in this 4x9 inch liner pot. So these are 1-year plants. They're ready to be lined out. They're going to be productive their first year in a container. This is a variety called Pink Lemonade. So as opposed to a blue blueberry, this is a pink blueberry. It's a little more acidic. It's a little more tangy in flavor. And they mix this a lot with other blue flesh varieties to be used in desserts. The dessert chefs love this variety. This on top of a cheesecake with a couple of blueberries will make about a $20 dessert.
Last year, we introduced the bushel-berry line into our farm market favorites. And one thing that we found out, and it was really eye-opening, so many young people now are getting into gardening, but it's a little overwhelmed. What we think is the best entry-level fruit to get into, especially if you have a small patio, is getting into blueberries or getting into small bush plants and trialing them there. And from there, going and expanding. So blueberries. Perfect. You plant 3 in a wine barrel. You can plant 1 in a nice decorative container. And it's an easy way for someone new to gardening to really experience and be successful with edibles. What the bushel and berry adds into this mix is, for example, this right here is the baby cakes blackberry. When everyone thinks blackberries along the roadside, they're thinking, the sprawling vines and the thorns. This is a thornless bush blackberry that's made for containers. It's going to get covered with fruit, really easy to maintain. It doesn't get big. You just keep it trimmed in a nice little bush. Its counterpart is known as raspberry shortcake. It is a raspberry that's a bush raspberry as opposed to cane, perfect for container gardening, and you'll get nice, good fruit off of it. So, if you're not really sure about, dedicating a lot of room, start with the bushel and berry line and go ahead and put them in pots. So speaking of pots, right? What do you think about soil, especially blueberries? Everyone's a little freaked out on what to do, but we have a simple recipe.
There's two things that are essential to proper blueberry care. Number one, fast draining.
Okay.
You don't want any water to sit in that pot. You want it all to drain out. And an acidic soil condition.
Okay.
So you want to make sure that you don't have a high pH. You don't want a pH any more than about 6.5 max.
Okay.
So if you used a mixture of, say, a good sandy potting soil, about one third peat moss and coarse grind peat moss,
Okay.
and about 1/3 pathway or walk-on bark, and mix those all three together, that's going to give you the perfect mix for blueberries or for most container plants in general.
So
These little bushel and berry varieties would be great,
right?
in that same mix.
And it sounds a little daunting, but the way I do it at home, I get a wheelbarrow, get a bag of nice organic potting soil, set that there, bag of peat moss, and a bag of pathway bark or even orchid bark.
Yeah.
So orchid bark. You get this container, scoop one, scoop the other, mix it up, you're ready to go.
Absolutely.
It's as simple as that.
Yeah,
So,
it really is. It's not complicated at all, and it makes the perfect mix. There are almost equivalent mixes that you can buy pre-mixed or pre-bagged, but I really like being able to mix those three elements together and come up with that finished product.
right. So what we're saying is if you're new to gardening, a little intimidated, don't be. Great starter plants, blueberries. If you want to expand and maybe get a blackberry in your, patio or a raspberry in your patio, look into the bushel and berry line of plants. What's nice about ours is in little 4-inch containers, right? So they're inexpensive at your garden center. Put in a nice pickle jar, decorative pot, use the planting mix, and you're going to have fruit throughout the summer. So, hopefully this kind of helps people who are a little intimidated understand it's simple. And it's gardening really is simple.
And so rewarding. I mean, we were picking blueberries this year beginning about maybe March 15th, and we pick all the way up until first week in August.
Yep. So just go to our harvest chart, pick a early, mid, late season blueberry, and you're set.
And even though all those blueberry varieties are listed as being self-fruitful, by planting 3 individual varieties together
Just helps
in
with the
one
production.
clump, you get so much more production, probably 10 times the amount of production,
Right.
by having those cross-pollinators built in.
Yep. So any other questions, just go on to davewilson.com and, just look at the varieties and make the choice, go down to your independent garden center and pick them out.
And we're here for you. We want your gardening experience to be successful. We want you to eat plenty of fresh fruit, and that's why we're providing these high-quality plants and all this information on our website.
Right now, let's learn some blueberry basics. A while back, I paid a visit to the Fair Oaks Horticulture Center. That's run by the Sacramento County Master Gardeners here in Sacramento, California. It's a beautiful horticultural nugget. You ought to visit it sometime. But I was particularly interested in their blueberry display and the way they protect their blueberries. So even if you don't grow blueberries, but maybe you want to protect some of your other crops from ravaging birds, give a listen to how they do it. We're talking with Master Gardener Shenna Mealy. And Shenna, this is quite the system you have here for planting blueberries. Now, most people know that blueberries require an acid soil. And to get around that, a lot of people plant in containers, but you have it in the ground. What were some of the obstacles of having successful blueberries in the ground that require acidic soil?
Mostly once a year in March, we test the soil. We test the pH with a pH meter. And depending on what that pH is, then we know that we have to apply soil sulfur. We do that whether they're in a pot or in the ground. Then we add also fertilizer. When we add our soil sulfur, we add whatever We add half of the amount that the box recommends in March. Then the other half we add in October. So we write that down in our gardening calendar so we don't forget. And then we also fertilize in October also. And with doing that, we keep our pH pretty well in check, and our berries are very happy.
Sulfur is not a quick-acting ingredient. It takes a while for the pH of the soil to change, thus the two applications, one in March and one in October.
Right. And some people are tempted after they apply it in March, they're tempted to check the pH again, say in May, and go, oh no, I need to add some more soil sulfur. So we always caution them when we're explaining this, don't check it again. Just know that you've followed the instructions, you've done it correctly, and then have confidence that little by little that pH will get to the place where you want it to be.
You have your blueberries spaced here about 3 to 4 feet apart?
Yes.
And when people come here to the Fair Oaks Horticulture Center and see the blueberries, they're going to be amazed at your netting system here. Talk about this netting system. It's a system anybody could put in at home.
Right. It's very simple. If you don't net your blueberries, the birds will eat them before you get to. Blueberries turn blue about a week before they're actually ripe, but as soon as they turn blue, the birds will eat them gone. So if you want to protect them and have some yummy ones left for yourself, you need to net them. What we have done is we have PVC pipe that's about 4 or 5 feet tall with a T at the top. And then that PVC pipe is actually over a piece of rebar. The rebar is in the ground. It's about a 4-foot piece of rebar. We poke in the ground about 18 inches. The PVC pipe goes over that. A string has gone around through the PVC pipe T's.
At the top.
At the top, yes. And then the netting is over that. So it's really just a support for the netting.
Yeah, that string, we should point out, is actually like a white nylon rope.
Right. And it could be anything. It could be yellow. It could, whatever. This year, we actually painted our PVC pipe green, so it's a little less obtrusive, and it actually looks really fabulous.
And it's half-inch PVC pipe, too.
Yes.
So that's very inexpensive.
Very, and easy to do, something that anybody can do with a little, saw and a spray paint if you want. Then the netting that we can buy locally is not as wide, and it's kind of stiff and not as easy to work with. So we have netting that we found. So then the other part that's essential is you have to pin the netting down to the ground, because those sneaky birds will actually climb under the netting, eat your berries, break your leaves, trying to fly out. They won't be able to fly out, and then they'll just kill themselves and die. So we don't want that to happen. And consequently, we have used hose. You can use anything, actually. PVC pipe, old wood, something to secure the base of the netting around the entire side. We pin that down with irrigation clamps, and that keeps it so that the birds cannot get in.
So are these the longer bobby pins, about the 6-inch or 8-inch?
Yes. Yep. They're like 1 inch wide enough to go over a big hose, and about 6 inches long.
Yeah, so basically you just have like a 100-foot garden hose along the base of the perimeter and then pin it down, and that holds the netting in place so squirrels or dogs or whatever and birds can't get underneath it to get the berries. My question is, how do you get in?
You have to lift it up. You have to unpin it. You have to lift up the netting from under the hose. The netting then just kind of flops up over the supports, and you pick underneath there and then put it back down.
What section opens up? How wide a section do you have open up?
It depends on how many berries you can open up, even the whole side, if you want to, can be opened up. We usually open up maybe, 6 or 10 feet at a time, just depending on how many berries are ripening, which bushes need attention at that time.
All right, let's get into some specifics about the varieties here. What are your favorites? I know it's like picking your favorite child, but what do you look for when you go to pick blueberries? Are you looking for flavor, for size?
That is a personal thing. I want them to taste really yummy and blueberry. My husband's favorite is to have like 6 different kinds in a bowl and have all those different flavors popping in his mouth at once. Some people like them to be big. My dad, the bigger, the better. Some people like them to be small because they associate with the intense flavor of some of the low bush ones that are grown in Canada and the very northern states. So I think it's a personal preference.
You're absolutely right. Some people prefer sweet, some prefer tart. Because I'm the one that picks them in the yard, I like them big because they're much easier to pick than the smaller berries. And of the ones I tasted this morning, my favorite has to be the Draper because I like sweet and I like large, and the Draper fits the bill. And I would think, too, that of all the varieties you have here, they also would be available locally.
Yes, sometimes. They're not all always available all the time. There was one I have at my home. I had 5 planted, and there was one that we tried here. We did a little taste test, my husband and I, of the berries from the Hort Center, and we really, really loved the flavor of the Duke blueberry.
Mm-hmm.
And so for 3 years, I looked online, I looked at the local gardening stores, I looked everywhere to find a Duke, and I couldn't find one. And one day I was at a big box store and walked by, and there was one, and I grabbed it. And so you really don't know when you're going to find one.
Talk a little bit about the fertilizer you're using. I have heard people say you shouldn't use a nitrate-based fertilizer on blueberries, but, it's personal preference, really. So what fertilizers are you using here?
We use the soil sulfur if needed for the pH, and then we use Nutri-Rich, which is a pelleted chicken manure, which is a 4-2-3 composition. Again, kind of a slow release, and that's pretty much what we use here. Then the other part that we take care of them by pruning and making sure that they get adequate water. They seem to be very happy.
Yeah, the story of Nutri-Rich fertilizer is very interesting. It was a family that had a chicken operation down in Riverside, and they were wondering, what are we going to do with all this leftover chicken manure? And they pelletized it and sold it as Nutri-Rich, and the rest is history.
And it's wonderful. We use that in a lot of places at the Hort Center. It's very popular here, and I actually use it at home. I like it very much.
Well, Shanna, I've learned a lot here. Thanks so much for your time.
You're welcome.
John writes in and asks, I currently have a couple dozen blueberry plants in 1-gallon containers. I started a couple of years ago from cuttings. I eventually want to move them up to 15-gallon containers. What size container should I use to migrate up to that 15-gallon size? Well, the fewer times you have to migrate your blueberry cuttings, the better, John. For one thing, take a look at the roots in those 1-gallon containers. They may be wrapping around the root ball or coming out the bottom. If that is the case, put them right into 15-gallon containers. As long as the 15s have good drainage and your acid soil mix is easy draining, there's nothing wrong with moving them into 15s now. But let's say the roots in those 1-gallon containers aren't entangled too much. You could move them up to 5-gallon containers if you're planning on giving a few away to friends, or 10-gallon containers if you're going to keep them for yourself. But I would only have one per container. If you have multiples in one container, you do want to give them each their own container. Another option you may want to consider is planting them in cattle troughs, watering troughs, livestock watering troughs. Nowadays, you can find them in many places besides the farm supply stores. They're usually about 6 feet long and about 2.5 feet wide and about 36 inches tall. That's a good size for holding 2 blueberry plants. So you could take those cuttings and just plunk them right into a good acid soil mix in those watering troughs and save yourself the trouble of doing all that transplanting. So what is a good soil mix for blueberries? Well, they do like a pH that's on the low side, around 5.5. So something that's a rather acidic mix. Use a 1/3 mix of potting soil intended for camellias and azaleas, 1/3 peat moss or quaw, that's coconut fibers, and small pathway bark, and maybe a handful of soil sulfur. This will give those blueberries that ideal pH growing range around 5.5. I love blueberries, and they're easy to grow. They are a big part of growing and eating heart-healthy fruits and vegetables loaded with fiber. Most people are familiar with fiber. Fiber is a component of all plant-based foods which can't be absorbed or digested. It travels relatively intact through your body and then out. That's the role of insoluble fiber, the roughage found in many fruits, vegetables, and grains that passes through your digestive system and helps promote regularity. But there's another type of fiber. It's called soluble fiber. It's a type of fiber that dissolves in water to form a gel-like material. Studies at the Mayo Clinic and other institutions have shown that soluble fiber may help lower blood cholesterol levels, by reducing the bad cholesterol, the low-density lipoproteins. Soluble fiber may have other heart-healthy benefits as well, such as lowering blood pressure, lowering blood glucose levels, very important for type 2 diabetes patients, and it reduces inflammation as well. And blueberries are one of the top 5 fruits and vegetables with the most soluble fiber that you can grow in your backyard. The others are artichokes, shell beans, apricots, and green peas. But blueberries have so many uses in the kitchen. They have about 3 grams of soluble fiber per 100 grams, and just about every part of the country can grow some sort of variety of blueberries. The northern tier states love the northern highbush blueberry varieties. Down south, they have the rabbit eye blueberries. Here on the west coast, the southern highbush blueberry varieties have a low chill requirement and are heat tolerant, and you can plant a succession of them to get a continual harvest for 3 or 4 months. One of the favorites I'm eating right now is called Emerald. It's a large, tasty blueberry. Other varieties that we've had success here in California: Sharp Blue, Jubilee, South Moon, Blue Ray, Sunshine Blue, and Misty. But there's plenty more. It's tasty, it's healthy, it's blueberries. Plant some soon. If you want directions on how to do it, go back to episode 2 of the Garden Basics with Farmer Fred podcast. We talk about how to grow blueberries. And here's the secret: do it in containers. To your health. In today's newsletter, we have more information about the next harvest day at the Fair Oaks Horticulture Center. That'll be on Saturday, August 1st. It's an event that's been going on for 28 years at the Sacramento County Master Gardener's 1-acre demonstration garden, which is located adjacent to Fair Oaks Park in Fair Oaks, California. It's an excellent day of great gardening information as you stroll through the Fair Oaks Horticulture Center. Best of all, it's free. It's Harvest Day, Saturday, August 1st. More information in today's newsletter, or just do an internet search for Harvest Day at the Fair Oaks Horticulture Center. And please become a subscriber to the Beyond the Garden Basics newsletter and podcast. Don't forget that paid subscribers get an exclusive extra podcast and newsletter each week, and they have complete access to the library of more than 300 past editions of the Beyond the Garden Basics. Thanks for listening and for reading.